Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now what do these 5 vintage cameras have in common? This is a Voigtlander VC medium format, Asori 4, Kiev 2A, a Mamiya 6 medium format camera and a Leica 3F. The answer to that question is none of those rangefinder cameras had a built-in light meter, and that's quite common for cameras of their era, and many didn't have the built-in light meter that we have today, so the technology simply wasn't there. Although I think the first light meter was from a Contraflex TLR from about 1935, but I'm guessing that would have been a selenium cell meter like you can see on this Kiev camera, or on this Rolleiflex 3.5F. There's a selenium cell meter. The only problem with those types of meter, they do tend to lose the sensitivity as they get older. But it wasn't just rangefinder cameras that didn't have meters. Many SLRs, this is the Contax D, this doesn't have a built-in light meter. As I say, many SLRs didn't have that feature. So if you owned cameras without light meters, what's the answer to get light readings? Well, the first is, if you're experienced enough, you can guess the light reading, especially if you're using black and white or colour film, negative film. They have a good latitude to under and overexposure. You could use the Sunny 16 rule, or if you want to get more accurate, you could use a handheld light meter. But the only problem is that you're having to carry another piece of equipment and then take the reading with that, look at that reading and transfer it to the camera. So there are ways to do it, but one of the best ways is to use a shoe mounted meter, such as this one. This is my Voigtlander VC2 meter. It's a very, very nice meter. It doesn't come without its faults, which I'll show you later on. But the problem with that light meter is that today's money, you're talking around about £250, £260. Whereas the kind people at AstrHori, I think that's how I pronounce it, sent me this meter. Not paying me to do a review on this. They've just sent me it and asked me to do a little video to see what I think about it, good or bad. So we're going to take a closer look at this little light meter. And the big difference between the Voigtlander VC2 and the AstrHori meter is the price difference. You could buy nearly 4 of these meters for the price of the Voigtlander VC2. So let's take a closer look at it and its functions, and compare it a little bit with the Voigtlander VC2. Right, let's take a closer look at the AstrHori XH-2 shoe mounted meter. Now in this part of the video I'm going to compare it with my Voigtlander VC2 meter, simply because the Voigtlander VC2 meter costs around about £250, that's new, and this one costs around about £55 to £60. So you can see what value for money that you're going to get. Now it's built in China and it comes very well packaged in this strong box. At the top off we've got an instruction manual, comes in all sorts of languages including English, and then we've got the light meter and we've got the USB-C charging cable, because it doesn't come with batteries. You have to charge the actual meter itself, and it's encased in foam, so it comes very, very well packaged. So what we'll do now, we'll move in closer and see how you set some of the functions, etc., and we'll just talk about its build quality. Right, the first thing I noticed about the XH2 meter is how heavy it feels. It really does feel well made for its price. The only thing is the plastic dial there that changes the different settings does feel a little bit flimsy, but that's the way things are these days. But comparing it to my Voigtlander VC2 meter, this one feels a real lightweight. But having said that, I've had the meter for 5.5 years. It's never let me down, so that's a testament to the VC2's build quality. This is yet to be proven. Now when we turn it over, you can see where the weight comes from. On the mounting shoe, I've tried it on different cameras before I did the video, and you can see it's worn away the black paint and it reveals brass. So I would imagine that the metal casing on this meter is all brass, which is great considering, as I say, its cost. Now you don't put batteries in this meter, you have to charge it, and could be a little bit of a concern for certain people. Let's say you went out, you forgot to fully charge it and it runs out. You need some way or some device to recharge it, where with the Voigtlander VC11, you just simply replace the LR44 batteries. I always carry a spare. Having said that, I've had this meter, as I say, 5.5 years, and I'm still running on the same LR44 batteries. This meter uses very, very little power. Now, to charge the meter up, we have to use the cable that's supplied. It's a USB-C cable. You press that into that connection there and plug the other part into some connection that will charge it up. I put this into my PC and it charged it up quickly. About 30 minutes it was fully charged, and you do get an indication on the OLED screen that what power you've got left in the meter. I'll show you that in a minute. Now if we flip it over and we look at the end of the meter, you can see that there's a button there that turns it on. You can't turn it off manually, it goes off automatically after about a minute. That's the same as the VC2. And then at this end there's a window for taking the light readings, so always make sure that's clear and clean. To turn the meter on, you press the button once and we're greeted with a really bright OLED display, and it's got two modes: aperture priority, which indicates about an A there, and then press twice and it moves up to shutter priority. Now the shutter speeds on this meter run from 32 seconds to 1/8000th of a second, and the apertures run from f1 to f32, so it's got a really good range. And again, the shutter priority is indicated by a T. This icon at this side there means that when you're taking readers, it's continuously taking the readings, and once you've taken a reading, if you want to lock it, you simply press that once and the lock comes in, and wherever you point the meter it will not change. And to get the lock off, just press it, or press it once again and the lock goes off. So press it once to turn the lock on and once to turn it off. To change the ISO, I find this a little bit awkward, but you press it down once, keep it down, and it moves to the ISO. The ISO runs from ISO 6400 to 1 ISO, so that's a really, really good range. So we alter that with the mode dial, and then we also have with this, if I can get it to move up to there. This is what I find very awkward. This meter is sometimes moving to some of the settings, but we have here an EV reading, but we can also use it to set plus or minus exposure. Now the only problem with this is that if you set a minus or a plus exposure and then come out of it, it doesn't reset it. It stays in that setting. So if you use that, always remember to set it to 0. So all in all, it's very nice, and that's your bar for indicating how much power you've got left. But I do changing from aperture priority to shutter priority is easy. Going to the ISO, that's okay, and then going to the EV reading at the top. See, I'm finding it difficult to do that. There, it's done it. But yeah, I prefer, if I have to be honest, the method on the VC2 where we've actually got dials that we can read off. We can press a button there which indicates if we're getting a decent exposure. So there we're not, and then as I lower the shutter speed, you can see now I can read off that scale, and it's telling me the exposure is 1/4 of a second, sorry, 1/30th of a second at f1.4. So I just find this a lot more intuitive to use than this little meter, but I suppose with use it will get better. So that's the main functions and the build quality of the meter, and I think for £60 what you pay for that, it's very good value as against the Voigtlander VC2. It just depends how long these meters last. this has stood the test of time. It works very well. The only faults with the VC2 for me is that I've had to put tape over the battery compartment. That often pops off, and your batteries drop out. That's one thing. The other thing is the ISO. When you move the dial there, it's all manual. You can tend to knock it accidentally and get the wrong reading. Whereas with the XH2, once it's set, you're not going to accidentally move it. So it does have that advantage. The other thing, advantage I think for the Voigtlander is that you've got the shoe is movable. We can move it right over to the left or move it to the right, just to suit different cameras and where the hot shoes place, so we're not blocking the shutter speed dial or any dials on any particular camera that you're using. With this one, it's set at that and you can't move it. So I think I prefer the way this works to that one. But again, the difference in price dictates, and I think value for money, this is probably better than this meter. So, but the proof's in the pudding. I've got to go out and try it first and see if I can get some accurate exposures. I always do with the VC2, and we'll see how this one performs. But let's see what cameras it fits on and how it fits next. I suppose the specifications speak for themselves comparing the two meters. The XH2 has an ISO range of 1 to 6,400. The VC2 is 25 to 3,200 ISO. The shutter speed range on the XH2 is 32 seconds to 1/8,000th of a second. The VC2 is 1 second to 2,000ths of a second. And the f-stop, f1 to f32, and on the VC2 is f1 to f22. So it is a more versatile meter in that respect as against the VC2. But as far as ergonomics go, I prefer using the dials rather than using the OLED. I've always preferred using the dials. I find them a lot easier to read and to set much easier than using an OLED. But that's just me. Some people might think differently. Now this is my Leica 3F. Now let's see how it mounts on there. It's mounted on absolutely great onto there. It doesn't protrude too much. I can get my eye to the viewfinder and to the magnified rangefinder window, so that fits very nice. The only thing I noticed was that I can adjust the shutter speed dial there, lifting it, no problem turning it, but I can't see the index mark. It's just a little black line underneath that. So I'd have to, if I wanted to use this camera, I'd have to put a little mark on this meter just to show where that index mark's on the Leica. The index mark is that little black mark there. If you can see that, there's a little black mark there. And when I put this on, it actually push it on easy, it locks in tight, it just covers that a little bit. But I could get a workaround for that. The Zorki 4, let's see how it fits onto there. That goes on great. Any problems through the viewfinder? No, none whatsoever. It's not restricting me, so that's good. The Mamiya 6, put it on there. That locks on nice. It's not too tight, not too slack. And again, I can get to the viewfinder window to make adjustments there. So that's no problem. The Kiev 2, I think it's a 2A. See how it goes on there. Now that's very tight, but it does go on. It could be the Kiev just worn a little bit, I don't know, being moved. But I can still get to the window of the Kiev and have no problem using the actual rangefinder itself. So it fits on all those. Let's have a little look on an SLR camera. This is where a problem could arrive. The meter on this camera, I rarely use it because I don't trust it. If I put it onto this, it goes on great, but it does stick out a little bit at the top. and I can feel it actually on my head that I'm hitting that button. So it's a little bit difficult because to see the whole of the frame I've got to get my eye very close up because I wear glasses, so that could be a problem, but I don't think it's too much. So it's usable, this meter, with most cameras. If I used it with a VC2, this meter would have to go that way around, over that way. So I think from a personal look that the XH2 looks better than the VC2 meter, but again, it's just preference. But as I say, we can move this meter about where you can't with the other. Right, the proof in these meters is how well it works, so I'm going to go out now, mount it onto a camera. I haven't chosen one yet, and just use this meter to take the light readers and see what sort of negatives and pictures we come up with. Right, before I go out with the XH2 mounted on the camera and take some pictures, I thought I'd do one more quick test, and that's to take a reflected light reading of an 18% grey card and compare that reading with the one I get from the VC2 meter. Now I know there's going to be some discrepancy because it's the way these meters work. The VC2 meter really works much like a manual camera, where you have to set both the aperture and the actual shutter speed until a green light comes up for correct exposure. With the XH2, it works more like an automatic camera. So if I put it in aperture priority, it's going to automatically select the shutter speed. So it is slightly different, but let's just see what we can come up with. I'm going to meter f22, and both light meters are set at 400 ISO. So the XH2 first. That's giving me 1/10 of a second at f22. I don't know if you can see that, and then we'll compare it with the VC2, and that's giving me it's near enough, just over 15th of a second. That meter, the XH2, is stepless, so it's giving just over between 15th and 30th of a second. So both meters are pretty much accurate. I think the XH2 will probably be a little bit more accurate than this one, in the fact that it has a stepless range. But having said that, you've got to be able to set that stepless range on your camera, so it could be pretty useless, that. But both meters are giving a similar sort of reading, which is perfectly adequate for negative film. Right, we'll move on and go out and take some pictures. Right, I'm finally out with the XH2 meter, and it's quite dull today, so the lighting's a little bit flat, so I'm going to have to be careful what I photograph. I've come out with my Canon EOS 3. That's the camera that I've chose to take the images. The reason I've done that is because the XH2 can set these intermediate apertures and speeds. So if I'm using it in, say, aperture priority metering mode, it can come up with say 100th of a second at 5.6 or 100th of a second at f5, and I can set those speeds on this EOS 3 so I can mirror what the actual XH2 is giving. So it'll be a sort of an accurate sort of test. So I'm just going to have a little look round. I think I've seen my first picture, which is just there. So let's go over and take a look. Right, this is the first picture of these, I think that's what they call them. I think they're a weed, but they're very nice. And going to move in a little bit closer to probably this one there, and throw the background out of focus if I can. Now the XH2 is giving me a meter reading of 100th of a second at 5.6. So I'm going to set that on the EOS 3. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm getting exactly the same exposure, and then we'll see how it turns out. So this is the first picture. Now I quite like this image. I'm going to try and get this church laid in, and then the cobbles, and obviously someone walking up, and I've got someone there now, so I'll take the picture quick. Sorry about that, to do that quick. The meter gave 50th a second f 3.5, so that person will be out focus, and I like it because the cobble's a little bit damp, so a lot better when they're like that. So let's see how that turns out. Right, another picture I had to take quick was of this sign here, and I wanted to include somebody to add a bit more interest to the bottom left hand corner, and that's what I've done. The meter reading on the XH2 was 1/60th f8, and I set that on the EOS 3, and we'll just see how that turns out. By the way, I'm using Ilford HP5 and I've rated it at 400 ISO. You've got to be pretty quick for this street photography. I've just taken a picture of a chap walking up. It was 125 f8, so I say I mirrored it on the EOS 3 and took the picture. Unfortunately, the car, when I took the picture, wasn't in the picture, so that's good. Right, we'll have a look at that one now. I just took a picture of two people on the path down here, and I got the Black Bull in the picture. Quite a famous pub this, I'll show you why. If you can read that. So it's a very old pub. Right, the meter reading on the XH2 was 160 at f8. Sometimes shop windows displays are quite nice, and I quite like this one. You're not going to see it as it is now because I'm going to throw that back out of focus. Now I'll take a reading with the little XH2 and see what we can come up with. So it's all a little bit awkward with just one hand on the camera. It's given me 100 at f4.5. So I'm going to use that exposure, and hopefully it's going to be okay. The only thing I've noticed with the meter is if you point it down slightly or point it up, the readings move so quickly. So you know, you can 1 minute shooting at 100th of a second, tilt it up at 250, tilt it down at 60th. So I think the best way I'm working it is just to keep the meter dead straight onto the subject. Right, books that are not books. It's just a sticker on the wall, but it looks quite effective. Meter reading is 1/60th at f4.5. I think I'll take a picture of these locks, the reading. I'm guessing is 320 at 5.6. So I'll take a shot of these and hopefully I'll get some sort of picture. Right, the river wharf, and I'm going to take a picture of some of these boats. Now this is a classic example. If I pointed the meter at those boats, the meter's going to be fooled thinking it's too bright, and it's going to underexpose the picture. And this is where reflected light meters can fail. Alternatively, you could be photographing a very dark, predominantly dark area, then the meter's going to tend to overexpose. So you have to use your noddle box a little bit, and I think metering for this, rather than meter from the boats, I'd meter from something that I think is a neutral 18% grade. I think this path is. So I take a meter reading of that and then take a photograph of the boats. So as I say, reflected light meters, even in your high-end cameras, will be fooled by lots of white in the pictures and lots of black. So you've just got to think about what you're doing, and in certain scenarios like that, try and find a neutral area where you can take a light reading. Or if you've enough experience, you'll know that photographing a picture of these boats and you took the reading, then you would tend to overexpose the picture from the meter reading itself, and that will correct that underexposure. So anyway, I'll take a picture of these boats and see how it turns out. I'll take a light meter reading from the path, and that's given me 400 at 5.6. So I'll set that on the EOS 3 and take the picture. Right, I'm quite enjoying using this XH2 meter. It's light, it's compact, it fits onto this camera beautifully, and the OLED screen, although it's dull today, you can see it there, it's very bright, and I think even on a bright sunny day you're going to be able to read the numbers from it. Now, as I mentioned before, the only thing with it is that if you've got the camera and it's pointed slightly down, and then you move it up, you can move one whole f-stop and then move it up slightly and another whole f-stop. So it is very, very sensitive, and in my opinion it's a little bit too sensitive. But like all things, using this meter, if you keep using this meter, you will get used to using and how it reads the light. I think the actual reading here is around about 70, equivalent to a 70mm lens, so it's hardly a spot meter, but it's averaging things out, and we should get decent exposures. Now I'm going to go home now and develop this film, and hopefully, fingers crossed, everything's turned out. And on the way back, if I see any pictures that I think might be worthy of taking, I'll do that, but I won't video it now. I think with enough videos, I'm sure you get the gist of what I'm trying to do. So I'll see you back in my darkroom, and we'll have a look at the negatives. Right, you've seen the pictures, and these are the negatives that created them. I haven't scanned everyone, but looking at these image strips, I think the AstrHori XH-2 meter's done a very good job. They're all even, the exposures are quite even, and keeping in mind that the day that I took these pictures was a very, very dull, wet day. There wasn't a lot of contrast, and that often, in my experience, can fool meters and tend to make them overexposed too much. These are fine; they're quite workable, as you've seen in the images. They might be a tad overexposed, but that might be down to me, and I think you've got to get used to the meters over a while, and you'll probably get better results. Now, if I'd have taken these pictures using my Voigtlander VC2 meter, I know from experience I wouldn't have come up with any better exposures. So all in all, I'm very pleased with the results from the AstrHori XH2 meter. Right, so do I or would I recommend these hot shoe mounted light meters? Well, definitely. If you've got vintage cameras that don't have meters in them, buying one of these will help you get more consistent results. Now, the one that I bought a few years ago was this one, the Voigtlander VC2 meter. A great little meter, but it doesn't come without its faults. I've just checked on eBay, and these are selling for £270 It's a lot of money for a little meter. The other thing with it, it's not got a massive range of shutter speeds and f-stops and ISO range compared to the AstrHori XH2, but I suppose it's enough for vintage cameras, so I don't see that as a problem. Its big plus point is the hot shoe. Now the hot shoe can be moved to fit various cameras, and if I put it on the say the Mamiya 6, and if you look at that there now, you can see that it's flush with the back of the camera, so I don't have a problem getting my eye to the viewfinder. Now if I put it onto the Canon EF, the Black Beauty as I call it, again no problem, because it's fitting flush at the back, so I'm not having no problem even with my glasses on. Now if you look at with the AstrHori XH2, and I know why they've done it, because you can't move it side to side, but I wish I'd have moved the hot shoe from that position at the front to further back. So if I put it onto this camera, again the Mamiya 6, it's for me as a glasses wearer, I can just see the viewfinder, but it's hitting my glasses, the back of it, because it's not flush. And the same, it's even worse on the Canon EF, because you can see again it's sticking out there, and when I get my eye to it, I can see through the viewfinder, but it's hitting my forehead. So I wish that meter hot shoe would have been further back on this little meter. But the workarounds, you can work around these things, and I'm sure I could use these cameras with this little AstrHori XH2 meter. Now this meter is very well made. As you can see, I said before, it's got paint worn off there, and it looks like it's brass. It's quite weighty, and the exposures that I got when I went out and tested it were very, very good, and I think if I used it a little bit more, they'd even get better. The range of ISO, shutter speed, f-stops on this meter is vast, so even with cameras like the EOS 3 that I was using, I could, if that meter stopped working for whatever reason, I could still use the fast shutter speeds of 1/8000th of a second on that EOS 3. The interface is good once you get used to it. I found it wasn't hard. It was easy to read and see. And the fact that I went out and shot a roll of film, a 24 exposure, the actual the battery power has only gone down by 1 bar. So you know it's gonna shoot quite a number of roll of film. But I would recommend that when it gets sort of halfway, to fully recharge it, just to make sure it doesn't run out. So it's a great little meter, and these on eBay compared to the VC2 are a real bargain. You can pick these up for £43. Now I don't know whether it's going to last as long as the VC2 meter, but the difference in price is just ridiculous. And I wouldn't get any better exposures using the Voigtlander VC2 as this one. So all in all, I think this one, value for money, is absolutely amazing. I don't know if it's got long longevity of this meter, but you could buy 5 or 6 of these for the cost of that. So yeah, highly recommend the AstrHori XH2 meter. I'd say buy one, put it on your camera. Remember when you're metering, maybe not to turn it too far up or down, just try and keep it level, and you'll get more consistent exposures using it that way. But otherwise, I would highly recommend this little meter from AstrHori. Right, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, a like, better still, subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, leave them below and I'll get back to you. As I always say, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video, and I'll leave a link in the description to where you can actually buy this little beautiful light meter, the AstrHori XH2 shoe mounted light meter.